Thank you guys so much for coming in today and taking time out of your busy schedule to have a meeting with me to go over just some information we've gathered about Fred and his reading ability throughout the year and what our plan is moving forward for him. So I just want to start by saying Fred has been wonderful to work with. He is hardworking and an incredibly smart student. Throughout all of this, he's put forth his best effort and never complained, because this has been a lot of assessments for him to take, and so it's very easy for him to get discouraged, but he hasn't. He's been wonderful to work with. Fred has several strengths when it comes to reading. His main one being his reading comprehension skills, which means his language comprehension he's really good at. So when he's reading or listening to a text, he is able to either retell the story in his own words or answer questions based off what he has read/heard. This is extremely important because it shows he can understand what he's reading, and then is able to, of course, answer questions based off what he has read. When looking at the assessments we did, Fred has difficulties when it comes to word recognition and spelling. This means that when he sees a word, it is challenging for him to decode that word. Now, what decoding means is when he sees a word, it's hard for him to put the sounds to the letters he sees and then say it all together. So, like, an example of this would be like cat on paper. So you see it, and then you'd have to go in your head, k, at, and then put it all together. He struggles to do this, so when he sees harder words that he's not as familiar with, it can make it challenging for him to be able to read a passage smoothly, because he's struggling to identify the individual sounds in the word and then put it together. He also, based off of the assessments we have done, struggles with encoding, which is spelling. So he struggles to remember how to spell words and instead spells them phonetically. This means he spells them based off the sounds he hears. So an example of this would be if I told him, hey, Fred, can you spell the word when? He might spell it W-E-N and forget the H because you don't hear the sound in the word. So basically, he just spells based off whatever he hears. So those are his, so he has some great strengths in areas, but there are some areas we are concerned about and like to work on. Before I get into any of the assessment data, do you guys have any questions about those strengths or weaknesses? No, not right now? Okay. So we're going to go ahead and jump into the assessment data. Now, based off the assessments that have been administered to him, it has been identified that Fred has a deficit when it comes to oral fluency and decoding. Based off the ORF, which I administered in conjunction with the QRI passage. So we read about a special birthday for Rosa. And so based off of this, he read part of it and I read part of it to him. He was just getting frustrated, so I went ahead and read the rest of it. So when looking at the ORF, he was able to read 35 words in 1 minute, and he missed 4 words, and the ones he missed was eagerly, waiting, celebrate, and without. And so that means he scored 31 words correct in a minute, which would put him in the 10th percentile of all third graders because he got under 40 words correct in a minute. So that seems a little low, but we have a plan to work on it. And then also based off this QRI passage that he read part of, and I read part of it too, he was able to get 7 out of the 8 comprehension questions correct on the first try without looking back at the passage at all, which is really good. This is showing he's so close to being independent when it comes to answering questions based off the passage, which is amazing. And he is able to retell stories really well, because earlier in the year we did a picture book walk, and he was able to look through the book and then retell it in his own words and basically give us the important parts throughout as he flipped through the book. So he's able to understand what he's seeing and listening to and being able to answer questions based off of that, which is really amazing. That's showing he's able to understand the information he's getting, which is a huge hurdle for some kids. So him being able to do that, that's like half of what we need him to be able to do. And so now back to some of the data that we collected. While we administered the QRI, we also scored him on the multidimensional fluency scale, which looks at how fluent he's able to read a passage. And so when looking at this scale, I have it right here, it measured him on a series of categories. And so it looked at it under it looked at 4 different sections. It scored him on the first one was expression and volume, the second was phrasing, Can you read phrase by phrase and chunk it together? His smoothness, was he able to read it smooth sounding with a flow, or do you have to take hesitations and stop and self-correct himself? And then the last one he was scored on was pace. Did he read at a moderate pace? Did he read super fast? Is he a smooth reader? So looking at this, he scored a 6 out of 16, which indicated fluency may be a concern, which we already suspected based off of the QRI results and the ORF results. So what this means is he's struggling to read smoothly and with confidence. It tends to be monotone and choppy, with him stopping and trying to sound out words before continuing. Now, this shows that he struggles with fluency, but most of his fluency and concerns are based off of his struggles with decoding. So our belief is, as we work with decoding and getting him more proficient in the decoding area, he will be able to read more fluently, because he will have more confidence in being able to see words, break them down, and then so fluency will come with time as we work on his decoding. Now, when it comes to the concerns regarding encoding, which is spelling, we did administer a spelling inventory in which I gave him 14 words to spell, and he was able to spell 2 out of the 14 correctly. Based off how he spelled several words, we can see that he struggles with blends and when to use a short vowel versus long vowel. Now, I know a lot of this data can seem overwhelming because it's a lot of numbers and facts and things that sound very complex. But we take all of this data that we've gathered over the course of the assessments we have administered to Fred, and we use it to guide our next steps and how to help Fred be as successful as possible. So basically, all of this data, it's just for us teachers to be able to support him and make sure he's headed in the right direction. What can we do to help him more and get him where he needs to be? This isn't for a grade. It's not going to be as an assessment or going in the grade book or anything like that. So this is all just for us to help him. Do you guys have any questions, comments, concerns before we move into what our plan is as teachers for Fred and how the next steps we're going to take? Not yet? Okay. So now that we've gone over all of the different data, our plan is, and 2 main goals are going to be help Fred with his decoding and spelling, which these two go hand in hand, as we have said. Now, to do this, we're going to focus on explicit decoding instruction. Now, to do this, we're mainly going to work one-on-one or in a small group of Fred, and we're going to be tapping out words using letter tiles, focusing. We're going to start first easier with closed syllable words with short vowels. And then once this becomes easy for him or automatic, we'll move on to tapping out words with blends and long vowels, which, as identified before, this is one of his areas of struggles. This will help to break down specific words and sounds to allow us to see the letter correspondence easier. So what this means is we're going to start with basic words like bad and we'll say bad, tap it out, say the sounds, and then once he gets confident with words like that, we'll move to closed syllable, from closed syllable short vowel words into more complex words with like blended teams and blends. So say he saw race and it's spelled RACE, he'd tap it out S and skip that E. So that's our plan moving forward is to work on that correspondence, the different sounds to those letters based off the order in which letters have been put. So this will allow him to get better at the decoding, but it will also help with encoding. We will work on encoding practice too by having him tap out a word. Like we will tell him a word, he will tap it out, but then after that we will have him be able to write it on a whiteboard. So this way we can see he's getting the sounds, but he's also able to correspond with the letters and write it out on the whiteboard. And that if he makes a mistake or messes up, we will be able to just correct it and keep moving on. Overall, our goal as Fred's teachers is to get him to a place where he can confidently decode any word when he comes across it, when he either is reading or listening, and get him to a point where he can hear a word, tap it, and then be able to write it correctly. Now, I know that's a lot, and we're almost done. We just want to quickly go over a few family literacy resources that maybe you guys can work on at home, or if you have any spare time, just to help get him more practice outside of the classroom. So some ways to reinforce this would be just to read together and read as a group or as a family, and have Fred read and help him break down those words and tap them out. And so this just gets him more fluency practice outside of school. And this can also help him read books that he's more interested in versus just the HMH books we use within our curriculum. So I know Fred has said on one of the reading interest surveys we gave that he loves reading about, like, he loves reading Fly Guy, Dr. Seuss. He's told me he's interested in learning more about trucks, so maybe reading books about trucks could help to get him more interested in reading. This can just help support his growth outside the classroom and maybe get him more excited about reading. And then another thing we want to do is be able to send you guys home with some letter cards. And on these letter cards, there will be single letters, vowel teams, and blends. So these can be used to build words and work on his letters found correspondence. So you can use them in multiple ways. You can show him the card and have him say the sound that corresponds to the card. You can also have him build words and then sound out the word he made and correct if he made a mistake. And while we know you guys are super busy and that you guys might not be able to use all of these all the time, but we just wanted to try to work to provide some extra resources in case you guys have time to help work on Fred's decoding and encoding skills, so that hopefully he'll improve fast and get to the level where he needs to be, and more importantly, start enjoying reading and not getting as frustrated. Now, truly, Fred is an amazing kid. He's super hardworking. He's really kind. And so our goal is just to get him to where he needs to be and see him make some progress. So I just want to really thank you guys for coming in and spending some time. Thank you.